Welcome to this week's socially distant edition of the Who the Folk podcast, sponsored by Gold Group Realty. I'm Lonnie Goldsmith, the editor of TC Jewfolk. This week we're joined by Leo Dworsky, a 16-year-old St. Louis Park High School junior, who is a finalist in the Minnesota Public Radio Classical Minnesota Varsity competition. We talk about how he got his start in singing, why he likes to teach music, and what it would mean to get your vote on this week's Who the Folk podcast. Leo Dworsky, welcome to the Who the Folk podcast. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
So, in the most immediate term, you had reached out to me this past weekend to try to get me to vote for you. You are taking part in the Minnesota Varsity competition on the classical MPR, the Minnesota Public Radio website. Tell us a little bit about what the Minnesota Varsity is and how did you first, become one of the finalists for this?
Yeah, so Minnesota Varsity is linked with classical MPR, and the goal of this competition is to have young singers appreciate, classical music. And so every year they hold a competition in which, the best, I guess, quote unquote, best classical artists, move on to the featured round and then to the showcase, which will hopefully happen, which is on Ted Mann Concert Hall, on May 31st. So the competition basically starts with me submitting my piece, not a professional recording by any means. So I'd say there's probably about 100 submissions or something like that. Then in January, the judges meet and they go through all of those submissions and determine 15 of the best. So there's 10 instrumentalists and vocalists. There was only one vocalist, which is me. Okay. And then 9 composers. And then there was 9 instrumentalists. And then there were 5 composers. And so those were the featured artists. And after the featured artists, I guess, were determined, then the voting happens a couple months later, in which your submission is played one of those days that voting occurs on the actual MPR. Mine was played last Friday, and from there, using a simple process, people vote to determine who they think is the best featured artist. And I've been working really hard to try to get as many votes as possible, I guess, to be able to move on. But, all of the featured artists are all amazing, and it's an honor to be able to compete with them and be able to and if we do make it to the showcase, it'll be an amazing opportunity. Yeah.
So the piece you performed was by Beethoven. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. What was the piece you performed?
It's German. It's called Ich liebe dich, and it translates to I love you.
It was, the most amazing thing was I listened to it, and I'm like, wow, Leo's got a great voice. And then I discovered you're a 16-year-old junior at St. Louis Park High School.
Yeah.
And I thought there was no way a 16-year-old has this voice. How long have you been doing this as a singer to be able to sort of get you to this point that you're part of this competition?
Yeah, well, I started, sort of singing, I guess, when I was 4, but it didn't really become serious for me until I joined the Minnesota Boys Choir under the direction of Mark Johnson. And being with him, he taught me all about, discipline and decorum and poise and technique. And, one thing sort of led to another. After being in the Minnesota Boy Choir for many years, I finally started working with a voice teacher named John DeHaan at the University of Minnesota. I'm currently working with Dr. Sarah Miller at McPhail Center for Music. All of my teachers have taught me amazing techniques, and these techniques have helped me open a studio of my own. I currently am teaching students ages 7 to 13. which has been an amazing experience. So all the techniques that I've acquired from amazing teachers, I feel like have helped build me up to this point.
Why start teaching? I feel like maybe you're still sort of in this, I mean, not even in a prime of being able to perform. Why work teaching into that also? What is it about being a teacher?
I feel like teaching is something that I'm destined to do. I ultimately want to become a teacher, professor.
Okay.
And I love building relationships. I love kids. I mean, I'm still a kid, but you know.
Yeah, yes, you are.
I love kids. I love being able to teach them. It's so rewarding to see people like progress. And I don't know, recently, I had a student and she wasn't very like confident within herself. And, you know, through work and through, you know, like building up her confidence and stuff, she just did a recital a few weeks ago before this virus started. And it was just amazing. She did phenomenal.
So you mentioned the virus. This is obviously very different, uncertain times for everybody. But for somebody like you who loves to perform and be in front of people and also teach, you know, in sort of a, you know, one-on-one way, how have you altered how you do these things now that we can't have that one-on-one time with people or time in front of an audience?
Yeah. Well, I'm very fortunate in the fact that I can still teach, but online. So the studio that I'm with currently, ACOT Music, has shifted to all online lessons using a platform called Zoom.
Sure.
And
I think by the time this is all done, we're all going to be very familiar with Zoom.
Yeah. Yeah, so I've been able to do all of my online lessons on Zoom, even though it's not, you know, intimate, personal, you know, connection. My explaining of things has gotten much better during this process, so I'm able to, you know, most effectively help my students, you know, versus, you know, like showing them what to do, you know, versus like telling them. So that's been really cool. And in terms of, you know, audiences, I've been trying to, you know, use social media and, you know, inform people about this competition. And yeah.
So one of the, you know, I was looking up, you know, doing some light Googling. You had first performed, there's a link from Fraser, Minnesota's YouTube page of you performing at their gala from 2014. You were 11 singing John Lennon. So there's John Lennon. Yeah, there's from 2019's gala you performed a song by Pink, A Million Dreams from the Greatest Showman soundtrack. But you've also, you know, for the competition that you're in, singing Beethoven, you know, in German, I'd imagine. Is there, I mean, that's sort of all over the place in terms of genre and just general type of music. Is there something that you gravitate more towards?
Definitely classical music.
Okay.
I really gravitate, well, mostly, I mean, classical music and Jewish music is really what, you know, I gravitate towards. I mean, but I love all genres of music. I feel that each genre tells an amazing story, and it's up to you to convey that story. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think it's really cool.
What type of Jewish music do you like? And is that sort of was that the type of music or the genre of music that sort of got you into singing back when you were, you know, much younger?
That actually was a part of it. Yeah. So, in synagogue, you know, I've been in multiple services, and hearing the cantor, you know, lead services, just amazing, you know, Jewish prayers and adding music to it was just amazing to watch. And, you know, just in these, after my bar mitzvah, I really wanted to do the same thing. So recently I've been doing a lot of service leading at my synagogue, and to be able to, you know, show God, you know, through this is, you know, by, you know, by leading these services has just been amazing.
What synagogue are you leading at?
Bethel.
Okay. So are there ways that you've been able to, since we're all sort of isolating, are there ways that you've been able to help out with any of the services that they've been doing on Zoom now, and I'm sure we'll continue through April?
Yeah, so I haven't led any services yet, but in a couple of weeks I'll be doing a special Haftorah reading. Yeah?
Oh, that's cool.
Over Zoom, because obviously, Torah really can't be read because, there's no really Torah to read from.
That's right.
So, that's when it kind of gets a little complicated, but reading the, Haftorah and doing special Haftorahs and prayers and stuff is really cool.
That's excellent. So what was it that, was there somebody in your family that sort of led you down this path, or was music something you gravitated towards on your own?
A little bit of both. My grandmother, Judy Dworsky, she loved music, and she loves music, and she taught music at Knollwood Place in St. Louis Park for seniors, and I used to come to her class and just kind of watch her teach, and after a while I started to want to take control of the class. And just since then I've just always gravitated towards music and towards teaching and stuff like that.
Interested in learning about commercial real estate or other investment properties for sale in the Twin Cities? The team at Gold Group Realty specializes in running the numbers and helping investors find great deals. Learn more at their website, www.thegold.group. So when you get on stage, it's something that most people won't do. What's that experience like when you're singing to a room full of people?
It's amazing. I'm someone who takes energy from the audience to be able to, I guess, produce a better product. And when I feel like I don't have, the energy, or my energy starts to go down. So I feel like it all depends on on the audience for me, but ultimately, it's for myself. It's not necessarily, it's for myself first, and then to be able to convey those and then I feel like that will rub off, good feelings, I guess, toward the audience. But
you feed off the crowd, though.
I feed off the crowd, yeah.
Do you play instruments also, or just sing?
Yeah, I do. I play piano, and I play while singing. I'm a classical pianist. I play all different kinds of genres. Currently, I'm preparing for a piano scholarship competition. I'll be playing a piece called Grillin' Whims by Schumann.
Okay.
And it's a very, I guess, fast-paced, and I really gravitated towards it because of the different, modulations and different things that kind of make the piece, I guess, what it is, and the big hand reaches between my fingers, and it's a cool piece.
So are you hoping to, when you're looking at colleges in a year, are you looking for something that's more voice-oriented or more, piano-oriented?
Definitely more voice-oriented. Okay. That's kind of the plan for right now, but it could change.
Well, that's very cool. It's nice to have those options.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Are there, so looking for voice work in college, I know there's, you could choose an opera sort of path, but a choral, or chorale, I suppose would be, path. What is it that you're looking for?
Well,
or or is it something completely different?
Well, I've kind of decided that, vocal performance or music performance isn't really something that I gravitate towards.
Okay.
Because as I said before, teaching is ultimately something that, I want to do for the rest of my life. I mean, teaching music, but in what form, I don't know. Maybe, being an entrepreneur of a business, a music studio, actually teaching, being a professor. Who knows? I mean, that's still, I guess, to be determined.
Yeah. Well, this is fascinating talent that you have. We'll have links to some of the YouTube clips in your YouTube channel in the show notes and the article page when we post this. But incredibly talented. Leo Dworsky, thank you for joining us. Last two questions, though, before we let you get back to, well, I guess however you're socially isolating yourself these days. What is your favorite Jewish holiday?
It's a really good question. Oh, I love Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, or Rosh Hashanah.
Okay.
One of the main reasons why I love Rosh Hashanah is because, it's one of the biggest, holidays of the year. Everybody comes together in the sanctuary. I actually got the privilege of leading Shacharit for Rosh Hashanah at Bethel Synagogue.
And that's cool.
That goes with the whole energy thing that I said. Ultimately I'm praying to God. That's the most important thing. But being able to, get energy not only from God, but from, the people that were watching me was amazing. And also the food is really, really good. Yeah.
So, which is a perfect segue into the next question of, what is your favorite Jewish food?
Challah. Absolutely challah. And it has to be really good challah.
Do you make your own? What does really good challah look like to you?
Well, my aunt, she makes amazing challah. It's really, really good. And I like to get challah. I know it's not kosher, but Rustica by Lake Calhoun is good. I don't know if they call it challah, but it's like egg braided bread or something like that, and it tastes just like challah. And it's so good.
I think they call it. I think it is challah. It's pretty good. It is pretty good there.
It's really good. Yeah.
Well, Leo Dworsky, thank you so much. Best of luck. Hopefully people will hear this and hear your sample of Beethoven and vote for you. And hopefully we'll see you, as part of the Minnesota Varsity performance, if and when that happens in May.
Yep. Thank you so much, and thank you for interviewing me.
Thanks so much for listening, and thanks to Gold Group Realty for sponsoring this week. If you haven't yet, please subscribe, rate, and review the show. If you have someone who you think should be on the podcast, please email me at editor@tcjewfolk.com. The Who the Folk podcast is a product of Jewfolk Inc. and part of the Jewfolk Podcast Network. For more shows, check out tcjewfolk.com/podcast.